Welcome back to the Elias Macko Show, third hour of the program. We'll do some politics talk in this third hour because we have some major big stories to talk about. And it's our pleasure to welcome Raphaël Melançon. You know him and love him from the Big Five. Now you'll really appreciate him 2 hours later at 11 o'clock. How you doing, Raphael?
I'm more awake at that time.
Very true.
I have time to have coffee.
Should point out you're also president and founder of Trafalgar Strategies. So, Raphael, so much to get to. We're gonna talk about Gallant and Milliard, okay? Right. Let's start off with the Gallant Commission. And I'd love to know your thoughts. The Gallant Commission threw the book at the lies that they call it, right? They say the leadership at the SAAQ, there were lies from that leadership to the government. And one thing I'll say, I said at 9 o'clock, certainly seems like the CAQ, they love this report. Like I see like press attaches, the people around the premier, they're like, this is the best report ever.
We're not not in a bad shape too much.
But I'm saying, like, doesn't that make you wary of the report? That government loves it so much?
Well, I mean, it's obvious that the problem came from the SAAQ in the first place. The issue was that elected officials, and this is something, remember, Elias, I've worked for that government the 2 first years of the first mandate. And I think the main issue with that government is that within, especially staffers, this is a government that came to power without any past government experience compared to the Liberals or the PQ. So what I have seen is that they hired mainly professionals or former public servants they didn't have much political reflexes. So I feel like their job was not necessarily to defend taxpayers facing the machine. They were rather defending the machine facing taxpayers. They were the spokespeople of public servants instead of being defenders of taxpayers' interests facing those public servants.
Can I ask you if you view the Gallant Commission and the report? That's one of the issues that I have. I feel like it doesn't take the taxpayers back enough in this report.
I think the elected officials didn't take the taxpayers back enough, obviously, because when you're informed of delays, because they knew about the delays, they didn't know everything about the cost overruns, but they knew about the delays. I have never seen in my entire life a public project which had delays without cost overruns. Yeah. So the question that should have been asked in those meetings is, if there are delays, what are the costs associated? And this was where they failed at it. They failed at their mission to defend taxpayers because they knew something was happening. They knew that there were issues with that major project. And then, in my point of view, they didn't ask the proper questions.
So Raphael, to your point, it sounds like what happened here is people in government, people in the CAC, they're like, well, it's just government. Things are expensive. Things always go over. And that's why they didn't ask the additional questions, because they're like, well, this is just how we do things in Quebec. It's always going to be over budget.
Not just in Quebec. It's also It's also the case on the federal stage and like wherever you go.
You're right on on software, right? It's funny, and I've called this click fiasco digital Olympic Stadium. Okay. Right. There is something about software and government.
Look at Phoenix.
ArriveCan. It's just a black hole of money. Yeah. So, okay, well, what about the recommendations?
Oh, the recommendations, there's one particular recommendation I would have loved to see in that report, but of course it's not included. But to me, the main question is, why do we still have a public corporation insuring drivers in Quebec? Because, this is a model that we have that's almost exclusive to Canada. We have 4 provinces in this country: Quebec, Manitoba, Saskatchewan, and BC have public corporations, state corporations that are involved with auto insurance. In the rest of the country, in other provinces, it's private. So why do we still have, especially knowing that there's a culture within those organizations, there's heavy bureaucracy, they're not efficient, and it's always easier, Elias, to spend other people's money than spending your own money. So if the SAAQ were a public corporation in the first place, that kind of scandal would never have happened, because believe me, somehow a manager would have said, hey, you know what, this is going in the wrong direction.
Raphael, I'm so happy you're picking up on that, right? Because again, this is why I said, like, Denis Gallant, I feel like he did a report and ran a commission to make sure the next time there's a scandal, any Quebec government would be like, let's hire this guy again. He's respected, and you know what? He's not going to throw too much shade at government.
Yeah. He's not shaking the columns of the temple too much.
And you look at his recommendations. So you're making a great. Why doesn't he recommend that in light of this, we privatize. Get the private industry that's going to be focused on efficiency here.
I really
Why
don't.
not?
I don't see the benefit, especially knowing we already have private auto insurance in this province. So because you have compulsory and you have complementary auto insurance. So these companies can also cover compulsory auto insurance, as it is the case just across the border in Ontario, for instance, or in New Brunswick, in Nova Scotia, and Alberta. So if that model works in other provinces, why would it not work also in Quebec?
But it goes to his other recommendations, and I had to shrug at times. Quebec should create a centralized new agency,
another structure.
And I said, are we kidding ourselves here? This is a report for governments to love governments because it pushes, hey, let's have more bureaucrats.
It's public servants by trade. They are themselves public servants. So it's public servants protecting basically a system of which they are themselves part. So
we both hate this. We both hate this report.
Well, the report has some interesting recommendations, but it's not fixing the problem to the root. It's just adding new layers now of bureaucracy on top of an already very heavy bureaucracy.
Let's talk about political winners and losers out of this. Who do you think are look good out of this, and who doesn't look so good?
Well, Martin Koskinen. He was apparently not aware, according to the commission. So he's
the
premier's right-hand man. So he's the chief of staff of the premier's office. So it means that the close entourage of the premier of François Legault was probably not aware of the situation at the SAAQ
until when?
Until 2025, until the report of the Auditor General. Okay. I would say Bonnardel also not too bad. He's
fuming about this.
He's
fuming now.
Yes, he is. Because let's not forget, he lost a lot in the end. I would say the biggest loser here is Geneviève Guilbeault, because it's obvious to the commission that she was aware of the situation as soon as 2023, whereas she always said, when she testified in front of the commission, she always said that she was made aware of the situation only with the report of the Auditor General a year ago in 2025. So she technically lied, but what she said yesterday, and I really don't buy that. What she said is, well, what happened is in 2023 we were in the midst of the crisis with services. They launched SACLIC, everything was going wrong, people couldn't access the platform online. So she was in the midst of that crisis with pressure from the media, pressure from the population, from other parties, and she does not recall having that meeting where they mentioned that there were cost overruns.
The defense is, I spaced out. If they were talking about numbers, I spaced out. Don't remember that part.
Yes, because I was too busy managing the services to the population and the whole crisis that ensued. And so when she testified in front of the commission saying, I do not recall being informed of this, she says, I didn't lie because I really have no recollection of it. Well, you know what? The thing is, and we've seen it also with the Charbonneau Commission, people tend to have memory blanks all the time in these commissions, and it's an easy way to avoid questions.
Yeah, it's an easy excuse. Okay, let's move it along to Charles Milliard, the new leader of the Quebec Liberal Party. It was a fait accompli.
No surprise there.
No surprise. What are the challenges that lie ahead here for Mr. Milliard?
Well, of course, the main challenge is to get people to know him, because 2/3 of Quebecers at the moment do not know. If you look at the latest Léger poll just 2 weeks ago, 64% of Quebecers have absolutely no idea of who is Charles Milliard. So he needs to get people to know him. Also, for his party to reconnect with Francophone voters, particularly, they're at 16% right now. So if you want to make gains outside of the Greater Montreal area.
What'd you think? He talked about Bill 21. He's doing French media. He's going to be on the Andrew Carter Morning Show on Thursday morning. So
he needs to do that.
So he needs to connect with French media. But I heard him say, French media side, that he's not going to touch Bill 21, but he's going to let the notwithstanding clause expire.
Well, it was the same position under Pablo Rodriguez. So basically, you're not against it, but you're going to let the courts vote against
it. Which
means
means you're against it.
Exactly. The end of it is the same. Is you're not touching it. So you're walking a very fine line here, not to put against you like nationalists and francophones outside of the Greater Montreal area, which are in favor of Bill 21. But in the end, you know what, Elias? There's lots of things that Milliard doesn't control. And one of the main things that he does not control at the moment is the choice of the CEQ. And the choice of the CEQ as their new leader will have a much bigger impact than anything he says in the media right now.
So would you wait, if you're the Liberals, do you wait, see who their leader is before you come up with your battle lines and your policy?
No, because you have to define yourself in the minds of people before your opponents do define yourself. So you want to take advantage of the vacuum currently on the CQ side to try and be as present as possible in the media and in the minds of people, so that people tend to be interested to vote for you. But in the end, if I were Charles Milliard, I would rather run against someone like Bernard Drinville than someone like Christine Fréchette, because Christine Fréchette has somewhat a similar background to Charles Milliard.
I know.
So if you were, let's say, a PQ voter, and you're part of the 28% of PQ voters who do not want to have a referendum on sovereignty, you might be more tempted to go towards a soft nationalist like Christine Fréchette, who's a woman. She has government experience as a minister. She's held very important portfolios. She also has an economic background. So in those times of economic uncertainty coming from the U.S.
What do Francophone voters do if they view Milliard, and let's say it's Christine Fréchette, as the equivalent of half a dozen of one, 6 of the other? What do they do?
And soft nationalists are probably more keen to go towards the CQ than switching from the PQ directly to the Liberals. So whereas Drainville, which is more divisive, more abrasive, I would say, in terms of style, might be more appealing to PQ voters, but not necessarily to Liberal voters.
I got to be quick, but I just want to know, what have you heard about in the caucus, the Liberal caucus? Is there a division internally in this party right now based on what happened? Because there was a good group of people that Pablo was their guy, and some others that Charles Milliard was their guy.
I would say right now the time is to unity within that party. They have a very short time to turn things around for their party. They need to recruit star candidates. They need to do fundraising. They need to organize the next election, which could come. It could be in the fall, but it could also be. I wouldn't be too surprised if we were having a snap election in the spring or early summer, because the new leader of the CQ might be tempted to surprise their opponents, launch a snap election in May for vote, let's say, early June.
We must go to the polls early. Donald Trump is threatening us in our
I need
exports.
a strong mandate to defend Quebec's economy, for instance. So they need to be prepared. They need to unite around their leader. So they want to put the scandals of the past behind them and look forward to the next election.
Thanks so much, Raphael. You're always great on air.
I'm Dylan Playfair.
And I'm Tyler Smith.
We're putting loneliness in the penalty box by talking to some of our favorite athletes about the importance of friendship.
This is Bromance.
Bromance is brought to you by Charm Diamond Centers, proudly Canadian-owned and operated. Charm has been part of your love stories and bromances for over 50 years.
And you can find Bromance on the iHeartRadio network or wherever you get your podcasts.